The Canon FD line of now vintage photo lenses have officially solidified their place in the must-have lenses to use, being especially popular with those shooting on modern digital cameras. Their image rendering has proven to be very pleasing, and their ability to cover full-frame sensors has created a high demand, at least for a few of the offerings. With Canon having produced many variations through the years that they produced them, there are options in nearly every focal length someone could possibly need. After using various selections from each line, I have found myself favoring the S.S.C breech lock versions for numerous reasons. Media Division here on YouTube has a much better and thorough video if you are interested. I'll put a link in the description. In the spirit of science, though, I do like to compare the more expensive options with the cheaper options just to see. I was looking for a 28mm lens for an anamorphic setup I have, and I found a 28mm f2.8 S.C for $40, and wanted to see how it compared to the S.S.C version that costs roughly 40 times more. The S.C version is both smaller in overall size and weight. It also only has 5 aperture blades compared to the S.S.C's 8, and has different coatings than the S.S.C version. Upon starting my test shots, I was happy to find that the close focus and sharpness wide open of the f2.8 SC were both fantastic. The focus fall off and handling of specular highlights was also fantastic. However, I also immediately realized that those last two differences I noted made a big deal. The SC version's coatings were no match to the SSC, and the flares on the SC version were not controlled even a little bit. They quickly overtook an entire frame. Now, I love flares, but when the flare takes over the frame and forces itself into being the subject of the frame, there are problems. The second issue with that is that the aperture having only 5 blades made the overwhelming flares also not look the best for me when stopped down, even a little bit. The S.S.C version not only handles flare better, but also having 8 blades makes the flare much less ugly when stopped down. Now, this is simply my opinion about ugly versus pretty flares, but that's how it goes. Now for me, another thing I realized pretty quickly was how amazing the bokeh handling and coma control in the S.S.C version is. The bokeh balls are perfectly round from corner to corner. It's actually pretty magical, and now that I've seen it, it's something that I'm looking for in other lenses. Now to conclude on which I think is better, obviously the S.S.C version is considerably better. Is it $1,760 better though? For me, yes. Those differences for me are very important. Will the SC version be good enough for most users? Well, of course it would, especially in a controlled environment. Would the NFD version of this lens be better than the SC version though? Probably, yes. However, I'm not generally a fan of the build quality, feel, and handling of the NFDs, and also the front element is deeper in the casing, which for my anamorphic setup is no bueno. So like most things, once you get into the higher level of quality in things, you tend to have to pay much more for a smaller amount of better. And you just have to decide on if those small amounts are actually big enough to matter.